The knock wasn't a friendly one. It was the kind of knock that announced, "You are no longer in charge here." I yanked open the front door in sweatpants, not fully awake, and a cold dread washed over me. 2 police officers stood on the porch. One held a notepad, the other eyed my hands as if he'd already seen people do foolish things before their morning coffee. "Ma'am," the taller one began, "are you the one who received a call last night asking to transfer $20,000? My mouth went dry. A call. Not an accident, not a hospital bulletin. A call. And the memory clicked into place like a trapdoor snapping shut, because precisely at midnight, my phone had buzzed on the nightstand, loud and insistent. "Mom," I'd answered. "Mom, no. Hello, no. Are you okay?" The voice of my mother shrill with panic. $20,000? Why? "I don't know. Your brother is in the ICU." I'd sat up so fast my blankets tangled around my legs. "What, Mark? What hospital?" There was a tiny, almost imperceptible pause, just long enough to feel wrong. Then my father's voice, gruff and urgent, cut in. "Stop asking questions, just do it. If you don't, he'll suffer all night." He said it as if morphine were a physical object I held in my hand. I glanced at the clock. 1:30 a.m. The house was quiet. My husband slept, oblivious that my parents had just dragged their emergency into my bed. "Dad," I'd said, trying to keep my voice steady, "tell me the name of the hospital." My mother butted back in, suddenly loud and tearful. "Why are you doing this? He's your brother." That phrase used to work. It used to make me leap up, grab my wallet, open my banking app, and sort out whatever mess Mark had concocted this time. Mark was 42. He'd always been the boy with potential, the one my parents protected, excused, rescued. He'd crashed cars, maxed out credit cards, quit jobs with dramatic pronouncements about toxic bosses. And my parents had always found a way to shift the blame, usually onto me. Then there was Emily, my parents' other miracle, my younger sister whom my mother still referred to as our baby. Emily received comfort. Emily received patience. Emily received second chances, complete with gift cards and gas money. I received the midnight demands. So when my mother sobbed, "Please, honey, just send the money," something inside me went cold and clear. I spoke the words that had been lodged in my throat for years. Call my favorite daughter. Silence. Not the silence of a dropped connection, but the silence of offense. My father's voice turned harder. "Don't start." "Good night," I said. I hung up. I didn't argue. I didn't threaten. I didn't present my boundaries like a PowerPoint presentation. I simply ended the call, put the phone face down, and went back to sleep. And fell asleep again. It might sound heartless, but it wasn't. It was exhaustion. It was me, finally refusing to obey out of fear in the dead of night. When morning came, I woke to sunlight and the normal sounds of the neighborhood. A garbage truck on the street, a dog barking, the click of a coffee maker, and then that knock again, loud, impatient. And there the police officers stood, waiting. "Yes," I managed, my voice thinner than I intended. "My parents called." The officer made a swift note. "Did you transfer the money?" "No." He nodded once, a gesture that seemed to convey more than he was allowed to say aloud. Then he looked up, his gaze level. "Ma'am," he said, "we're here because that call from the ICU was logged as an attempted fraud, and the number it came from does not match your parents' number." My heart stopped. "If it wasn't them," I whispered, "then who called me in the middle of the night?" The tall officer didn't answer immediately. He peered past me into the hallway as if checking for someone else in the house, someone who might emerge and alter the narrative. Instead, he said, "Can we talk inside, ma'am? Just somewhere quiet." I nodded and stepped back. The living room still smelled faintly of coffee. The morning news murmured from the television, reporting on weather and road closures, as if the world were perfectly fine. The officer introduced himself, Officer Ramirez. The second, Officer Hensley. They didn't look dramatic. No flashing lights, no raised voices. That was the worst part because whatever this was, it was real. Ramirez gently raised a hand, the way one might to an elderly person who might be startled. First, no one is saying your parents are criminals. Not yet, but we do need to ask you some questions. He opened his notepad. You said your parents called around 1 a.m. What exactly did they tell you? I swallowed. My mother said my brother was in the ICU and I needed to transfer $20,000. I asked, what hospital? My father took the phone and said, stop asking questions and just do it. And you refused, Hensley said, more of a statement than a question. I told them to call my favorite sister daughter, I confessed. My cheeks burned because it sounded petty out loud, but it also sounded true. Ramirez nodded, as if he'd heard even worse family dynamics before breakfast. Did they give you the transfer details? Bank name, routing number, anything like that? No, they wanted me to do it right away, but they didn't give specifics. He looked at my phone. May we see your call log? My hands trembled as I unlocked the phone and handed it over. I hated it. Hated feeling interrogated just because I was being asked questions. Ramirez scrolled, neat and professional. Here it is, he said, an incoming call at 1 a.m. He turned the screen towards me. My mother's name, but the number underneath isn't hers. I blinked. That's not my mom's number. That's what we're trying to explain, Ramirez said. The call registered as coming from your mother. It's called caller ID spoofing. It's common in fraud attempts, especially with late-night emergency calls. I stared at the screen. Heat rose in my throat. So, someone pretended to be my parents. Possibly, Hensley said, or someone used a service to mask the number. Ramirez tilted the phone slightly and tapped another notification. And you received a text message at 1:17 a.m. My blood ran colder than the December air outside. I hadn't seen a text, maybe because I'd hung up and tossed the phone face down as if it burned. Ramirez read aloud, his voice flat. Transfer to this account. Don't waste time, he's in pain. Then a routing number, an account number, a name I didn't recognize. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. Hensley watched my face intently. You didn't see this? No, I whispered. I swear I didn't. Ramirez held up his hand again. We believe you. We're here because your bank flagged an attempted transfer setup in your name this morning. Someone tried to initiate it using your personal information. My personal information, I echoed. Where would they get that? Ramirez's gaze didn't waver. That's what we're trying to find out. Do you have joint accounts with your parents? Do they have access to your online banking? I shook my head quickly. No, I learned that lesson years ago. It tumbled out before I could stop it. Hensley gave a slight, understanding nod, the kind of nod a man gives who's heard the same story from too many families. Ramirez asked, Does your brother have access to your information? Date of birth? Social security number? My stomach twisted. He shouldn't. But then memories flooded back. My mother insisting she needed my social security number a few years ago for insurance paperwork. My father asking for my bank login just temporarily when he couldn't figure out bill pay. My brother borrowing my laptop, my phone, my trust. I suddenly didn't know what anyone had. Ramirez leaned forward slightly. Ma'am, we've had 3 other reports this week with the exact same scenario. Midnight panic. Transfer money or your loved one will suffer. It preys on people who react out of fear. I felt something sharp and bitter rise inside me. So I was just another number. Not quite, Hensley said softly, because in this case your brother's name was used, which means whoever did this knows your family. The room seemed to tilt. Ramirez closed his notepad. Here's what we need now. We'd like you to come down to the station and give a statement, and we'd like to trace that account number from the text. I swallowed hard. What if it's my family? Ramirez's voice softened, but his words didn't. Then the truth will come out anyway. He stood. And one more thing. Don't call your parents yet. If it's someone in your circle, we don't want them destroying evidence. The phone felt heavy in my hand, like a brick. And all I could think was, If I didn't call them, I'd be afraid. But if I did, I might finally know who was really behind that midnight scream. At the precinct, everything smelled of copy paper and stale coffee. Officer Ramirez seated me in a small interrogation room with a metal table and a box of tissues nobody wanted to touch. He offered me water. I took it mostly to steady my shaking hands. "Before we begin," he said, "I want you to understand something. You did the right thing by not transferring the money in the middle of the night." I let out a breath without a hint of humor. "It didn't feel right when you were standing on my porch." "It rarely does," he said softly. He then slid a form towards me and began to record my statement. The time, the number, the exact words. I repeated the call as if it were a recipe I never wanted to memorize. When we reached the text message, Ramirez asked, "Do you recognize the name attached to this account?" I stared at the screenshot he'd printed. The name was short, neat, and unfamiliar, but something about the initials snagged at my memory. "No," I lied at first. Out of habit, out of a loyalty I hadn't earned in years. Ramirez didn't push. He just said, "Okay, let's confirm, fact by fact." He left and returned with a woman from the fraud division, a plain blazer, no ceremony, one of those people who had seen too many people lose too much money. She introduced herself. "Detective Green." "Here's what we'll do," she said. "We won't call anyone just yet. Not your parents, not your brother, not your sister. But we can verify hospital information right now." She slid my phone back to me. "Do you know where your brother typically seeks medical care?" "County General," I said. "Or St. Mary's if Mom is being dramatic." Detective Green nodded. "Call County General, but not from your contact list. Look it up, use their main line." That detail mattered. It told me this was more serious than my family's chaos. This was procedure, because people like me, too, trusting, too tired, were tricked every single day. I dialed the hospital's published number. My finger hovered over the screen as if it might bite. "Thank you for calling County General. This is Brenda. How can I help you?" The receptionist answered. I tried to keep my voice even. "Hello, I'm trying to locate a patient. Mark Wilson." The line went quiet for a second while she searched. Then, "I'm sorry, ma'am, we don't have anyone by that name in our ICU." My throat tightened. "Are you sure?" "Yes," she said kindly, as if she'd already heard that kind of fear today. "If you believe someone is impersonating a hospital, please contact law enforcement." I ended the call and looked up at the detective. "So he's not dying," I said, "or he's not there." Detective Green's expression didn't change. Well, almost. A hum started in my chest, a mix of relief and fury. Relief that my brother wasn't bleeding out somewhere. Fury that someone had used the idea of his death as a crowbar to my bank account. Ramirez tapped his pen. Now, for the second part, the money. Detective Green pointed to the printed text message. "This account information. Someone wanted you to transfer money to it. This isn't random. Someone either knows you or knows your family well enough to sound convincing." I heard my own voice in my head. "Call my favorite daughter." And suddenly, the name on the paper seemed less random. My sister Emily had always been the one who needed help. Only this time, Emily was always the one with a sad story and a new phone number. I didn't say it aloud, not without proof. Detective Green leaned forward. "This is where you get your power back, ma'am. If you agree, we can conduct a controlled response. You reply to the message as if you're cooperating, calmly, slowly asking for details. Scammers hate details." My stomach flipped. "You want me to play along, but only under our supervision?" she asked. "And you don't send money, you don't click links, you just ask questions and let them give themselves away." Revenge doesn't have to be loud, it can be careful. I nodded once. "Okay." Green dictated, and I typed. "I can transfer. What hospital? What room? Who is the attending physician?" Then we waited. 5 minutes. 10. The phone remained silent, as if whoever had screamed at me at midnight had suddenly remembered daylight existed, and daylight meant accountability. Then, precisely at 9:42 a.m., a new message popped up. "Stop asking questions, just send it. He's in pain. No hospital name, no doctor, no room, just pressure." Detective Green's eyes sharpened. "Good. This tells me whoever is doing this isn't trying to help your brother. They're trying to control you." My fingers hovered over the screen again, this time with more certainty, because if they wanted control, I was about to give them something else. Detective Green didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She slid my phone back across the table like a loaded weapon. Then she looked me straight in the eye. "They're rushing you because they don't want you to think, so we're going to make them think." Officer Ramirez remained by the door, collected, calm, and solid. He looked like a man who had seen hundreds of tangled family situations and learned the same truth every time. Panic makes people compliant, and compliance makes criminals bold. Green pointed at the screen, where the scammer had written, "Stop asking questions, just send it. He's in pain." "Reply as if you're cooperating," she said, "but ask for something they can't resist giving." I swallowed. "Something that creates a trail," she said. "The full name on the account, the bank branch, anything." My mouth went dry, but my fingers were firm now. Firm the way they are when you stop being afraid and start getting angry. I typed, "I'm at the bank. They need the full name on the account for the transfer. What is it?" Green nodded once. "Perfect, we'll wait." 30 seconds, a minute. Then the reply popped up like a slap. "Emily Wilson, now send." I stared at it so long my eyes began to sting. Emily, my younger sister, my parents' baby, the one who never faced consequences because someone else always paid first. Detective Green didn't look surprised. She looked satisfied, as if the last piece of the puzzle had clicked into place. "All right," she said softly. "Now we have something to work with." Officer Ramirez leaned in, reading the screen. "That's your sister's full name." I nodded, the motion feeling heavy, as if I were agreeing to something that could no longer be undone. Green picked up a pen. "We'll document this, then we'll verify whether that account actually belongs to her or if someone is using her name." I almost laughed. A sharp, bitter sound. In my family, it was hers, because I remembered the details. My mother insisting Emily needed help after a divorce. My father grumbling about prices right before asking if I could cover something, just until next month. Emily's new handbag, her new manicure, her new phone always appeared right after another midnight crisis. Green was on the phone with the bank's fraud department while Ramirez printed the text messages and screenshots for the case file. Watching those pages crawl out of the printer felt unreal, as if my entire life were becoming physical evidence. Then Green said, "We're going to do a welfare check on your brother." I asked. "Yes," she said. "If he's actually in the ICU, we'll confirm. If he's not, we'll confirm that too." The drive to my parents' house took 12 minutes. I'd made that drive 1,000 times. Sunday dinners, guilt-ridden holiday visits, emergency errands, the same quiet neighborhood, the same manicured hedges, the same flag on the porch. But this time, I wasn't arriving to fix something. 2 patrol cars pulled up behind us. Officer Ramirez asked me to stay in my car for now. My hands clenched my knees. From the passenger seat, I watched the officers walk up the path and knock. My mother opened the door quickly, as if expecting someone. And there he was, Mark, alive, not pale, not bandaged, not suffering. He stood behind her in a t-shirt, holding a mug as if it were the most ordinary morning. Even from the car, I could see the change in my mother's face when she saw the uniforms, how a smile tried to form and failed. The officers spoke briefly with her, then stepped aside, and that's when I saw Emily. She peered from the hallway like a child caught stealing cookies. My stomach lurched. Ramirez returned to the car, his expression contained. "Your brother is not in the hospital." I stared straight ahead. "I know." He paused, then added, "Your parents say they have no idea what we're talking about." I made a small, choked sound. Of course they do. Green returned a moment later, her face unreadable. Ma'am, we need you to come inside. We're going to question them in your presence. My pulse hammered. Part of me wanted to run. Another part wanted to finally look them in the eye and stop pretending this was okay. I got out of the car and walked toward the porch, and as I ascended the steps, my mother's voice drifted through the open door, high and trembling, as if she were already crafting the story she would tell to make this all my fault. The paperwork didn't take long. The silence did. On my parents' porch, Detective Green spoke as if the facts were heavy enough on their own. Since the money wasn't transferred, she said, the county is offering a diversion agreement for a first-time fraud attempt. This means an official police report, account freeze, restitution, mandatory fraud awareness training, and family counseling. Violate the terms, and the case will proceed. My mother's face crumpled. Counseling for our family. Green didn't blink, especially not for your family. Emily stood, hugging herself, mascara smeared. Mark looked past us, as if all of this were beneath him. My father cleared his throat. We didn't mean to. No, I said firmly. You meant to scare me into paying. It landed harder than the scream, hit the place where excuses usually lived. Green handed me a report number and a checklist. Officer Ramirez handed back my phone. If they contact you again, asking for money, he said softly, don't negotiate. Call us. When the officers left, my mother turned to me, her eyes wet. Honey, we were desperate. I looked at her, truly looked at her. Desperate people ask for help. Manipulators create fear. My father's shoulders slumped. We thought you'd do it. You always did. I used to, I said. That's why you tried. Emily stepped forward. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't think it would go this far. I didn't soften. Not yet. It went exactly this far. You used my brother's emergency to push a transfer to your own account. That's not panic. That's a plan. Her face fell, and for a second, I saw what my parents had created, an adult woman who had never been made to feel consequences. Then I did what felt like both retribution and peace. I am cutting off all financial assistance, I stated. No more late-night calls, no more just this once. If you require help, it will be assistance that cannot be spent. Information, referrals to professionals, resources. Mom opened her mouth, but no sound emerged. Dad looked as though he had been struck. And if you desire a relationship with me, I added, we are starting with honesty. We are seeing a counselor. You will stop attempting to resolve Mark's issues and label it affection. And Emily, if you seek absolution, you will earn back trust one small truth at a time. This was not a cinematic reconciliation. It was an adult resolution, one built on boundaries rather than promises. On my way home, I followed Green's checklist. I enabled bank alerts, changed my passwords, and placed a fraud alert on my credit history. Then I wrote myself another note. Select a family code word for genuine emergencies. Something only we would know, because here is a lesson I wish I had grasped sooner. Fear is a tool. Scammers wield it. And so do families who realize they can control you through guilt. If you ever receive a call in a panic, especially in the middle of the night, hang up. Call back using a verified number. Ask for the hospital's name, room number, the doctor's name. Real emergencies withstand questioning. Fabricated ones demand haste. That night, my phone remained silent. The house was quiet. And for the first time in a long while, the silence didn't feel like guilt. It felt like safety. If you've ever been the designated responsible person, the one everyone calls when the world is on fire, share in the comments. You would hang up too. And if this story resonated with you, subscribe to Quiet Family Dramas right now, because the next installment might offer the words, courage, or warning you need. Like this video, share it with someone you care about, and let's remind each other that boundaries are not cruelty. They are protection. The end.